Welcome to your journey of healing with the Healing Podcast, hosted by licensed clinician Monique Owe and co-host Dr. Amber Mohn.
Thank you for tuning into the Healing Podcast. I am your host, Monique Owe, and I am joined by my lovely co-host here,
Dr. Amber Mohn.
Okay, today's topic is, I'm about to say I do. What do I do? Okay, so this topic is you're in a process getting ready to get married and you're just wondering, well, what do I do now? Now, of course, we know that hopefully you're planning on marrying somebody you love, so you know that. You're making that step, but you're thinking about, what do I do now that we're about to become one, right? And you're just wondering those many thoughts that may come up. Dr. Mohn, if I can ask you, when you're about to make that step, probably even more so the day before, when you're getting ready, what's probably going through the mind of the groom or the bride-to-be?
Probably doubt, fear. Is this reality? My life is about to change. Am I truly ready, for this? There's some things that you may be thinking about.
Yeah. I think you are hoping and want to be the best partner for your significant other, right? You're hoping that you are that good wife, that good husband to them, that you're the best for them. And so you're thinking in many ways of, how do I think of them first, but not thinking of you, because it is different now. You are going to make a shift, even if you've been divorced before. You were single for a moment again. Now you're going back into a union. Or if you've never been married, you've been single all your life and been able to make decisions for yourself and not really think of a significant other per se, right? And now you're going into a union where you can't just think of self. You have to consider what your partner may like, what their dislikes are, and what their likes are, and being able to do both. So I think those are the many things, right, that cross your mind. And I think it is a big step, but it's a wonderful, beautiful step. What do you do now that you're getting married? I think one thing, you can't be selfish. I think you can't be selfish. You really have to think of your spouse. You have to think of them. If they've expressed some things they don't like, you have to be conscious of that and not do those things that they don't like. Dr. Mohn, what is something else that a person will have to do once they make that step? Or take that step?
Well, I think it goes, back even further, Monique, because hopefully you've been practicing some of this stuff. Hopefully you were on that road anyway. Being in a committed relationship, you don't just think about yourself, you think about others. Planning for the future, being selfless, those things you should be practicing anyway. So the signing of the papers, you should have already started. You should have been warmed up already. So I would say that.
Yeah, I think hopefully you have been in some type of premarital counseling, and you're going through that now. If this is you, it doesn't always have to be with your religious organization, your church, or any type of organization you're connected to. It can be with a therapist that just wants to help you guys highlight. Let's talk about what can come up or the things that may be there so that they're addressed now so that they don't end up being an issue in the marriage, right? My thing is not only just doing the therapy, it's also, did you apply what you learned in therapy? Like if you found out something about your spouse or your soon-to-be spouse, something that they like or don't like, have you made an effort to stop doing that thing that they don't like? Whatever suggestion has come out in therapy, hopefully you've applied it. You've tried to make that change, right? Because it would make your soon-to-be spouse happy. But if you're stuck in the place of, oh, well, they're going to have to deal with it, I think that can be an issue. It can be turned into a bigger issue. It may not be a main issue, but I think it can become a problem. So I think you have to be willing to listen, be open to their feelings as well. Be open to communication. It should not stop in the therapy. It should continue. You guys should be able to talk even outside of therapy. You should be able to plan to get. Are you on the same page? Like, is there a plan to move one day? Is there not? Are you guys on that same page? So I think, what do? I think you talk. I think You're about to say, what do I do? You talk. I think you got to talk, right, Dr. Mohn?
You definitely have to talk.
You got to talk. I think you got to get things checked out. I think before you make that step, health-wise, you should be checked out, and you should know if there are any health conditions that might get in the way of things, that might prevent certain things. Are you guys on the same page as far as intimacy? What the expectation will be? I don't know. Is that fair, Dr. Mohn?
No, it's definitely fair.
It's definitely fair.
Definitely fair.
Because are we expecting this to happen randomly, or is it, no, it needs to happen this many times? Like, those conversations should happen. And Dr. Mohn, I have a question. Why do people shy away from those conversations? They don't ask those things like, well, this is what I expect when we...
I think it's not enough education around that. Our parents taught us, a lot of things and showed us with actions what a good marriage looks like. A lot of people don't get that. But also, too, my parents, and love them to death, but they never sat me down at 17, 18 years old and said, okay, now when you get married, these are the things you're supposed to talk about. They probably didn't even talk about it. So I think it's just a lack of education, but, and really getting young couples or even older couples who have never been married an idea of just kind of the things that happen as, you stay with someone throughout your life, because I think that it becomes an understanding, having an understanding that, like, you do understand that if your spouse loses a leg, you signed this contract and said, or you stood up there and said, for better or for worse, that might be for worse. Or these are some things that are going to happen. At some point, your wife is going to go through menopause. And that what you talked about at the beginning of when you sat down and had that life happens. Your wife and your husband, your wife is not always going to look like this, because life happens. You get older, so So think about this, like understanding why you are with somebody, and understanding or being, what are you prepared to do? Like, once the honeymoon stage is over, what are you prepared to do? Are you in this for the long haul? Or when your wife loses her looks, or our bodies, and not just women, but men, when your husband's bodies, the pecs start going down, do you love him, anyway? Do you even care?
They're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're going to have to keep the pecs.
But those are things at the beginning, like those are things that should be talked about.
Definitely talked about.
They should understand, like, through all of that young, superficial things, what are you willing to do?
I think you highlighted something, Dr. Mohn, like the appearance will change. I think because you're going to get older, right? Even just because you're getting older, even if you are in the gym and keep yourself up, you're going to get older, or things may happen, right? So I think many times couples do a great job at keeping themselves together or up during the dating and relationship phase, but when after the I do, okay, that's it. Everything just let's go. No, we don't let go. What you do is you still do the things that you did when you were dating, when you were developing to this point. You still do those things. You still have the date nights. You still have communication. You still flirt with each other. You still send flirtatious texts. You still listen to each other, right? That doesn't stop just because, okay, I got you now. No. You're not going anywhere. But then realize, like you said, Dr. Mohn, health issues come up. What if something happens and your significant other, their hair falls out? Or he can't grow his hair out like he used to. He might have had long locks and now he had to cut it off. Or
our hair starts thinning, in the top. I mean, it happens too.
It happens, right? So you have to understand, if the change happened, are we still good because our communication is solid? Whatever the expectation was, even you have the small things. How are we going to do things in the household? You taking care of, if you have children, you taking care of the kids, you put them in the bed, or I'm putting them in the bed, or you going to do this, am I going to do this? Is it really going to be even? Is it not? Are you better at organizing, so you organize while I cook? Vice versa, right? Are we really going to share this thing? Are you okay if eating on paper plates versus not, because I want to save time with the dishes? But if your spouse really prefers a real plate, are you going to be okay with that? Like, those things seem small, but if you're not addressing them, they turn into big things, right? So it's a matter of what do you do? Again, I'm going to highlight communicate. Don't be selfish, please. And just realize you can't just stop dating each other because you got married. That's the problem there, I think I find. You stop dating each other, you don't talk. Go to medical appointments together sometime. Or ask your spouse, what happened at the doctor today? Like, don't just discard it. Oh, you're going to the doctor? Okay. Ask them, know what's going on so that if there is something, it can be addressed, right? Encourage each other. So that's what you do. I think when you're about to say, I do, what do? You discuss those things that might come up and think about how will you tackle it if something major happens. Well, Dr. Mike, I guess when we come back from the break, we'll just say, why don't people talk about this? You would think it seems simple to just talk about it, but we'll come back to that. So before we get back into this topic, we're going to make a quick segue here, and you guessed it, we're going to get into the situation. Dr. Mohn, what's our situation for today?
Okay. This situation was taken from social media, and it reads, 3 years ago, I proposed to my girl, but we broke up. I'm currently in a new relationship. We've been together for 2 years. I still have the ring from my last proposal. Is it okay to propose to my new girlfriend with the same ring? Okay. Thank you for asking that question. I personally wouldn't want a ring that you bought for somebody else.
How would you know?
I wouldn't know. So you need to say that, because it's vice versa. Would you want a ring that your girlfriend just took out from her last boyfriend and she was going to give to him if they ever got married? No, sir. No, sir. Now, I don't know what you have to do. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know how special it is to you, but it must be pretty special. Now, let me just say this, Monique. If it was like his mother's ring, mother's ring, we might have to make an exception, maybe. But it's just kind of like, when you buy a ring, you pick it out. You pick it out specifically for, the person that you're with. You don't just keep that ring and just say, oh, well, it'll look good on her too. I'm sorry, sir. I'm going to say no, Monique.
Well, this is interesting. Read. Well, when I read this and I saw it, I said, well, of course not, because it should be to the liking of your current girlfriend, right? I'm assuming they might have different likes and dislikes. Financial burden or situation, you really can't afford it. Well, what I think you should do is you should try to get your money back for that ring. Hopefully you got some insurance on the other ring and you can get some of your money back, or pawn it or something and use that money towards your new girlfriend's ring. But no, I don't think you should give the same ring. I think it has a different value. What that person meant to you is not what this person means. So I don't think you should recycle the same ring. Dr. Mohn mentioned like a family heirloom or something. Yeah, okay, get it. It's something valuable like that and you want her to have it. Fair enough. That's the only exception. But other than that, no. I'd rather you probably not give a ring than to give a recycled ring. But we'll see how that goes over. I think anything reminding you of that past should be gone. Yeah. And I think that ring was something of the past. You're now something of the future. So, nope, you should not give it. That's my opinion. I agree with Dr. Mohn. Yeah. So if you are out there and you want to actually share your situation with us, go ahead and email support@thehealingpodcast.com or go to thehealingpodcast.com and hit the contact tab and you can email us that way. And before we get back into the topic, a word from our sponsor, Healing Expressions.
Are you someone who has been considering therapy? Perhaps someone else has told you that you need to talk to a therapist. Or maybe you're in a relationship and you want to discuss some challenges that you've been facing with your significant other. Maybe there's a communication issue, perhaps an incident of infidelity. Or maybe you just want to strengthen your relationship because you guys are thinking about taking another step. Maybe you're struggling with anxiety or depression, perhaps grief, life stressors, and you just want to share your thoughts with someone. Well, consider contacting Healing Expressions. Healing Expressions is a private practice located in the Atlanta, Georgia area. You will be given a session at an affordable price with a licensed therapist. If this resonates with you, consider going to healingexpressionsllc.com, reading about the practice, and hitting the contact tab to see if you can book a session. All right, thank you so much. And back to the Healing Podcast.
Okay, so back into our topic. I am about to say I do. What do I do? Well, I think one thing I said before the break, Dr. Mo, before the situation, I asked you, you would think this is simple. It's all the things we're discussing right now. You'd think this is obvious. Mm-hmm. Why is it so hard for people to do it?
Oh, my goodness. Maybe you don't I don't know, maybe you're not, maybe you don't trust your significant other like you think you do. Maybe, you're so happy about getting married that you don't think that it's important to talk about these things. But you got to understand that the person that you are getting ready to spend the rest of your life with, they have to be your best friend. Literally. You have to be able to talk to them about any and everything. And I'm not saying, too much about your past. You don't have to tell them, all of that kind of stuff. But moving forward, you're moving forward together. If you're too shy or too scared to talk to them about how many times you feel like you need to be intimate for, each week and whatever, I can guarantee you, as life goes on, you're going to have some issues. Even when you run into these issues, because you may not talk about, these issues right at the beginning. Okay. Once you're settled in or these things pop up, you can't talk about it. Then, you're heading down the wrong path.
That is true. I think another reason, everything you said, Dr. Mohn, is true. Thank you for that. I think another reason people don't talk about these things, which appear to be simple enough to talk about, at least to talk about them, is I think people get so focused on the wedding ceremony versus the marriage. I think I see a lot of people many times where you are focused on the ceremony. You're happy to be getting married. You're happy about the new step in your life. And you do a lot for the ceremony, but you don't do as much for the marriage. And the marriage is just as important as the ceremony, of course, not more. So you want to invest the same way. You got to have those conversations. What you might think is an issue, I think at this point, I don't think a conversation would push that person away. You guys decide to get married. So I think you got to have those deep conversations, like even about the intimacy. What do you like, what you don't like? Make sure your partner's in agreement, because what if you find out, wait a minute, we are on 2 different pages. You like to do what? I'm not with that. Make sure you know that. Make sure, I'm going to say check health again. I can't keep stressing. Check your health. Make sure things are good, right? So that you know what you're getting into. Make sure, I guess, even if financially one is better with finances than the other, make sure that the person trusts you. Okay, since you're better with finances, you handle it. Because as a single person, you were handling your own. But now you're together, so somebody has to handle something. We're going to do it together in a way, but somebody probably does a little bit more, I'm assuming, than the other. Maybe one person is more organized with keeping things online, everything by due date, and the other person, like, well, just make sure you take it out the account, whatever it is, right? Make sure you have those discussions about finances, intimacy, household things, even family. What if you find out, Dr. Mohn, what if they find out they don't really like the other person's family? Like, I don't really like your family. And I really don't like going over there.
But and we're laughing, but that happens way more than we even know.
Yeah.
And so it's the truth, because then it's like, well, I'm always going over there and dealing with your family, and you're looking like my family is good. And we're like, no, so listen, we've seen it. So you do, and they're part of the deal. They're part of the package.
They're part of the deal. They are. I think, know the boundary, and I think respect it. If your soon-to-be spouse has said to you, like, look, I like your family, but I don't like going over for every function. Exactly. So can we have a balance? Can we do one major holiday and another out the year? And the other, you go, but I want to stay home. And you should be okay with it. I think that's not okay. Like if I don't want to go, let's say it's me, to every function with the family, is it okay that I stay home?
I think that it is okay that you stay home. A healthy balance. Like, shoot, do you want me to go to this wedding, or do you want me to go to this cruise with the family reunion cruise? Like, you got to pick.
Pick one. Exactly.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I just think that it can become a problem if you're never around. Like, if you never compromise, but they're always compromising when you come around. So
that's true. There's a balance. Even if you don't like them, like, okay, I will sacrifice and go sometimes. But sometimes respect the fact that I don't want to go. Don't force your significant other to be around family. Like, maybe like Dr. Mohn mentioned, like a family cruise. Well, they may not have to go. Maybe your family does that, but they don't always like to go to the family cruise. That's fine. They can go to the Christmas dinner. That's fine. I think it's no issue there. And I don't think you should let family make it an issue. Like, where's your spouse? They taking a break. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for you, ultimately, what should you do? Whatever works for you too, right?
Right.
Whatever that is. also establish boundaries. There's still boundaries, even I think in a marriage, and to a degree. I think you got some moments when you just want to be by yourself. Like, I don't need you to come in the room every time I come in the room. I don't know. Is that fair, Dr. Mohn?
Well, no, you're right. Absolutely. Because my thing is this. You'll have family, those family members who call your husband or your wife for money. Okay, our money is combined now. So guess what?
Good one. Good one.
Yeah, these are things that you both are going to have to talk about and come to terms with. Okay, TT can't call every other week asking, for money. No.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good one, Dr. Mohn.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good one. Money, like the person who I always call for money. Well, wait, now they can't always call for money
because
it's our money now. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a good one.
Or if it affects a household, and then also too, and I pride myself on this.
Okay,
but my husband has siblings, and so he gets whatever they do, whatever conflicts and things that they have. I stay out of it. Only when it affects me, and it never does, because I have I have a great sister-in-law and brother-in-law. But I mean, that's the thing too, is that knowing the boundaries.
Yep.
So
I think you do have to know that. You have to know what your boundary is as wife or husband, and when it's not, when it does cross over to where, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I now have to defend, and just for the peace of my household, this is what it has to be. Just, are you a protector of both of each other's feelings and what's going on? Because ultimately you guys will know more than someone else because you guys are together, right? So I think that's just what it is. I think hopefully you're having a great journey. What do is you try to figure it out, but talk about it hopefully beforehand. Are you going to figure everything out beforehand? Probably not. Mm-hmm. But I think be willing to go on the journey and don't expect perfection. I don't know why we have to stress that.
Because they weren't perfect when you got with them.
Not at all. Not at all. But I think that's fair. Dr. Mohn, anything else about this topic? All right. So thank you so much for tuning into the Healing Podcast. And I'm going to leave you with this. And here it is. There is no perfection. There is not a manual for marriage. There is just learning each other day by day. And that is by me. So, so thank you for tuning into the Healing Podcast. I hope you continue to tune in and share it, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.